Okay, we're on the Reno Benteen Defense Site. We're looking east into the Little Bighorn Valley at the retreat crossing. This is where Reno's men crossed the river and moved up here to this area to defend it. The areas of the skirmish line and the timber fight are right in front of you. You can see the timber across the river. The retreat route from outside the timber occurred to the left here and went through the barn, the red barn area. There's a field there. There's 3 markers there for soldiers that were killed. McIntosh, the first lieutenant of Company G, and then Isaiah Dorman and Charles Reynolds, who were both civilians, scout and interpreter. The retreat moved through the trees here into the cottonwood area and ended up going through the sagebrush and crossing the river right here in front of me. This is where Reno lost most of his men, some 33 at least. And of course a lot of people were left behind in the woods too. Probably the greatest loss to Reno at the river was his adjutant, Benjamin Hubert Hodgson, the 2nd lieutenant. He was shot while crossing the river, fell off his horse. Another officer came by and Hodgson was able to grab his stirrup and get pulled across the river, but as he was trying to make his way up the opposite bank here, he was shot again and killed. So most of the survivors that did get across the river worked their way up this draw to where I'm standing now. A couple took the wrong ravine, a couple went to the left and ended up over there to the north. If you look 4 folds over, the 4th hill, there are 2 markers. One is for James Madison DeWolf, who was a surgeon, civilian surgeon that was with the regiment, and also a private, Elihu F. Clear from Company K. He was a Lieutenant Hare's orderly. He went up that wrong ravine as well. Both men got up on that little hill and found themselves surrounded by Indians and killed right in front of the rest of the command here. They could do nothing about it. In the meantime, Reno got up here with about 65 guys. As we're looking west now and south toward the Wolf Mountains, you can see the Reno Benteen Defense Site here. There's the marker for it. And this is 180 acres, so this area goes on pretty far. It's a pretty big defense site. As I was saying, Reno got up here with about half of his command, about 65 soldiers in all, and he was completely demoralized. The one surgeon survived, and he ended up administering to the wounded immediately. Reno now, the commander, who should be really preoccupied with the defense of the battalion, decides to go down to the river now. Most of the warriors had not crossed, and they did not directly engage the soldiers once they were up here because they knew the soldiers were whipped, and also they had learned that there was another target further downstream that was threatening the village, and that was Custer's troops. So many of the warriors left, and this allowed Reno, who should have been worried about the defense here, to go down to the river and look for Hodgson, which he did find, but he spent a good 20 minutes down there instead of really acting as a commander. When he got back up to this point, which was a little bit after 4, he was greeted by Captain Frederick Benteen, who had come from the south. Remember, he had been going over all the valleys and the ridges to the left of the command in Reno Creek. He had found nothing, so he had opted to rejoin the command on Reno Creek. He had received orders from Custer to link up with him, so he was moving up this way. And when he got up here, he ran into Reno, who was still unnerved and shaken. And Benteen had a written order from Custer, and he asked Reno where Custer was. And Reno told him, "For God's sake, Benteen, hold your command. I've lost half my men." So Benteen elected to stay here and shore up the defense before he moved on. So the command remained here for a while. At about 4:50 p.m., Captain Thomas Weir, the man that had left the morass early after hearing the gunfire, he was a personal friend of Custer's, he came to Reno and Benteen and said he expected immediate orders to advance. Gunfire could be heard to the north, and at this point the command wasn't moving, and it was unchallenged. Both Reno and Benteen denied permission to advance any further. Reno said he had wounded and he wasn't about to leave him. And of course Benteen just forgot about the written order that he had and the verbal orders that he had from Custer, and decided to continue on, stay in here. So Weir, disgusted, actually left on his own, and he decided to move off to the north, and he did on his own. His orderly joined him. Second Lieutenant Winfield Scott Edgerly saw this movement, and he thought that Weir had gotten permission, so he mounted the entire company, Company D, and they followed the commander, and they ended up going about 1.25 miles north of here to an area called Weir Point. And it's a little tough to see from here, but we will get into the Weir Point episode here very shortly. What ends up happening is Weir goes to Weir Point, some 1.25 miles from here, and this forces Benteen and Reno to actually start to pack up here and follow. And we will get to that momentarily.